Nicole?
Yes.
Okay. What's going on?
So, my friend, we were out of town for a business trip this weekend.
Right.
And I dropped her off at 2 o'clock this morning. She's 15 weeks pregnant. She wasn't feeling
Did
well.
notorious killer Chris Watts lead a double life as a gay man?
Today we take a look into the pieces of paper that revealed the unthinkable. This is the tale of a twisted husband and father who revealed how he killed his family in utterly sick letters. Sit back and let's try to understand what would provoke such a monster to react. Before we start, our condolences and prayers go out to the loved ones lost and the loved ones left behind. Not only innocent lives were lost, but also children's lives lost long before they started. Please take a moment and say a prayer to those involved and wish for comfort and solace. Our hearts go out to those affected. In one of his unsettling prison letters to true crime author Sharon Cattle, sick murderer Chris Watts recounted how he killed his 2 children, Bella, who was 4, and Celeste, Cece, who was 3. The letter described how the murderer's pregnant wife, Shanann, was strangled at their Frederick, Colorado home after he had attempted to smother his 2 children. His effort to kill his daughters was unsuccessful, though, since they awoke bruised and traumatized from what they had been through. Following the murders in August 2018, the oil field operator was repeatedly interviewed by police and FBI agents, but he refused to admit to the first murder attempt. The dark and in-depth letter was addressed to Miss Cadle, who kept in touch with the murderer after he was imprisoned, reports Daily Mail. Letters from Christopher, her 2019 book, was inspired by the numerous conversations she had with Watts and the countless letters she received from him. Let's take a deeper look. The sick letters. In the letters, which the Daily Mail was able to obtain, were these words. August 13th, morning of, I went to the girls' room first, before Shanann and I had our argument. I went to Bella's room, then Cece's room, and used a pillow from their bed to kill them. That's why the cause of death was smothering. After I left Cece's room, then I climbed back in bed with Shanann, and our argument ensued. He continued, after Shanann had passed, Bella and Cece woke back up. I'm not sure how they woke back up, but they did. Bella's eyes were bruised, and both girls looked like they had been through trauma. That made the act that much worse, knowing I went to their rooms first, and knowing I still took their lives at the location of the batteries. In the letters, he adds that he was hiding other information from law enforcement that he would not discuss in the phone calls he made to Miss Cadle from prison because he was worried that they might be recorded. The murderer earlier claimed that he killed his 2 girls and his pregnant wife in a fit of rage in order to be with Nicole Kessinger, his mistress and fellow employee. Watts, however, later claimed that the murders had been planned for some time in the letter to Miss Cadle. He wrote, August 12th, when I finished putting the girls to bed, I walked away and said, that's the last time I'm going to be tucking my babies in. I knew what was going to happen the day before and I did nothing to stop it. In the note, he also admitted to slipping his wife a painkiller in an effort to start a miscarriage. I thought it would be easier to be with Nicole if Shanann wasn't pregnant, he wrote. Moving on, meetings with author. Before he got in touch with Miss Cadle, Watts seemed to have declined a number of interview requests, and he hoped that the book would serve as his story of redemption. The author, however, does not support Watts's crimes. In her first letter to the killer, she wrote, let me just say, the crime was horrific, so I'm not writing you to tell you how wonderful you are, or that I want to be pen pals. Before Watts replied, she sent 3 letters in total, and she frequently met him at the jail as she was researching and writing the book. Watts agreed to let Miss Cadle use his letters in her true crime book once they met. Watts gave the author his approval in exchange for publishing his testimony of coming to God and the forgiveness he received. The murderer refuted Shanann's involvement in Bella and Celeste's deaths in his letters, contrary to Watts's claim in one of his police interviews. He added that he remembered how his wife had seemed before she was killed and said, isn't it weird how I look back and what I remember so much is her face getting all black with streaks of mascara? All the weeks of me thinking about killing her, and now I was faced with it. He continued, I knew if I took my hands off of her, she would still keep me from Nikki. They asked me why she couldn't fight back. It's because she couldn't fight back. When his daughters entered the room as a result of hearing the noise, Watts told them that their mother wasn't feeling well. The bedsheet-draped body of Shanann was too heavy for him to carry down the stairs, so he had to drag her the last few steps before loading her into the back of his vehicle. Watts told the author, the girls were just kind of running around the house and watching me with scared looks on their faces. Bella started to cry, and when she did, Celeste started whimpering. What a nightmare this was. I realize now the girls getting up and walking around may have been God's 3rd attempt to stop what I was doing. Then he took his 2 daughters and the body of his wife to an isolated oil field. he told Miss Cadle. I dumped Shanann on the ground. Then I walked back to the truck, and with the blanket that Celeste was holding, I put it over her head and smothered her. After then, the murderer pushed Celeste's body through an 8-inch hatch in one of the oil tankers. I couldn't believe how easily it was to just let her drop through the hole and let her go. I heard the splash as she hit the oil. The conversation then took a new grisly turn. He explained to Miss Cadle how he killed his oldest daughter, Bella, after she saw him kill and then dispose of her sister. He said, "Little quiet Bella had a will to live. Out of all three, Bella is the only one that put up a fight. I will hear her soft little voice for the rest of my life saying, 'Daddy, no!' She knew what I was doing to her. She may not have understood death, but she knew I was killing her." Following the killing of his children, Watts went back to creating a small grave for his wife, telling Miss Cadle, "When I dug the hole, it seemed a lot deeper than it was. The two girls were smothered, and strangling was the cause of death of Shanann." After the murders, Watts made a public plea for his family's safe return on American television. But his lies soon started to fall apart. Endgame. It was soon discovered through surveillance footage taken at his neighbor's house that Watts had loaded his truck the morning of the murders and drove away. Although the killer claimed Shanann left the house with his girls while he was at work, the surveillance video showed that only Watts left the house that day. After that, Watts participated in a polygraph test conducted by Frederick Police, which revealed that Watts was lying. Watts first claimed Shanann had killed Bella and Celeste, but after talking with his father, Ronnie, he confessed to killing his wife. He did, however, later confessed to killing his kids as well. In November 2018, Watts pleaded guilty to multiple counts of first-degree murder as part of a plea deal when the death penalty, which was later abolished in Colorado in 2020, was removed from sentencing. 3 of his 5 life sentences without the possibility of parole were to run consecutively, and he, as of now, rots in prison paying for his gory crimes. There is no penalty at any level to be bestowed on such a heinous act of murder. One cannot fathom the mindset that would grant permission for a husband and father to make such a decision to end the lives of a wife and mother to 2 beautiful children. As this story comes to an end, we hope you were able to gain insight into a ruthless and heartless murderer. Please click the like button and feel free to leave a comment on which part of the video made you realize life is short and to appreciate every opportunity you get. Hit the subscribe buttons down below to make sure you don't miss any uploads. We look forward to your feedback in the comments section. Take this as a lesson that life has no guarantee, and pray for every opportunity you're given to live another day. Until then, live every day as if it were your last.